Hey guys, Luna here with a new video for the channel. How you're doing today? Sorry if my hair is a mess. I haven't been able to go to the barber shop and goddamn does it look bad. But you know what? I kind of fit into the concept of this whole review because today we're reviewing Red Hot Chili Peppers' Return of the Dream Canteen. This album is number 13 in their catalog. This is basically the sequel to their latest album released in April called Unlimited Love. A really well received album, honestly, even though I'm not particularly a fan of it. I think that the album was a bit too long for what it offered. I don't think it's Red Hot Chili Peppers songwriting at their best, and you know, when you've heard a band release some awesome material in the 90s and in the 2000s, listening to this albums can be a little bit underwhelming. And this album kind of shares the same concept in terms of songwriting and lyrics, but in here it seems like it was way more polished and they were trying to, you know, they seemed more comfortable in this new sound, because even though this two albums, Unlimited Love and this new record, kind of resemble a lot to the type of things they were doing back in the day, you know, when they were at their prime, it feels way more modern. You know, it kind of seems like they knew how to adjust to the new ages, you know, to the new type of music that's being released, and they came up with this sort of formula, if you want to call it that way, to keep making their music the way they want to make it, but in today's world. Another reason why I think this album is way superior is because, you know, the guitar work on this album basically carries the entire listen. The guitar work here is amazing. The riffs, you know, the arpeggios in here, everything sounds so pretty in terms of guitar. Not only is it beautiful and also so pleasing to the ears, it's so smooth. The guitar here is amazing. It can also be heavy, dirty, and distorted in some tracks here. You have a really solid track list on this album. I'm not really gonna get into detail about every single one of the tracks, mainly because I just don't think that there's that much to talk about, really. I mean, this album, one of the problems this album has, in my opinion, is that we're talking about 88 minutes of music, if I'm not wrong, and there's not really that much substance in the songs to keep you entertained for an hour and a half. You know, that's the same problem that Unlimited Love had. And even though this album, again, it's better, that does not mean that it's enough to fill it for even longer than Unlimited Love. Another thing that I can say about this album that I believe it's quite annoying is that it seems like the vocals on this album are all in the same key. Really sterile vocal performance here in this album. Not bad exactly, you know. I'm not saying that the vocals are bad, are just too similar to one another. It works well with this funk rock thing that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have always done, but after about an hour or so, you're already tired of listening to basically the same type of performance again and again and again, and even the guitar here can be a little bit too repetitive. It almost seems like if the Red Hot Chili Peppers would have taken the best songs from Unlimited Love and the best songs from this album, they could have crafted one of their best albums to date, because this album does have some amazing songs in here. But I think that because they released such a massive album with 17 tracks, I think that this, you know, highlights of the album being songs like, again, Roulette, Peace and Love, Eddie, are too far off from one another. If this album would have been cut off by, you know, a few 4 tracks that I can think about right now, for example, the lead single for this album, it's one of the worst songs here, also My Cigarette, because they didn't only focus on the funk rock thing they've always done. They also wanted to add some electronic music onto the mix, and the result is it's one of the worst things I've heard in a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. I mean, My Cigarette, it's like they didn't really know what to do with the track, so they just left it as it is, which again happens a lot of times in this album, but it's never that much of an issue. You know, usually the songs have a nice melody, the guitar work is really good, the drumming is kind of in the background. You know, the drumming is nothing that important here in this album, and that's another thing. You know, in this album, it's sort of like the guitar outperforms the entire band, and that's not something to blame on the guitar, that's something to blame on the other guys. You know, I'm pretty sure that the performances here could have been way more passionate. You have the type of song, you could have performed differently, you could have performed with a little bit more funkiness, you know, but that doesn't really happen, or at least I don't feel like it. And I've never been a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, but if there's something about their music and their songs that kind of keeps you entertained, is the amazing chemistry between bandmates, chemistry that in this album, even though you have, you know, the original formation in this album, after some time you don't really feel it, or at least it wasn't well carried away. I guess you can kind of say that it's a term of perspective. I've seen some reviews of this album and they absolutely love the vocal performance delivered here, and actually don't talk that much about the guitar. But from my point of view, it's the guitar that stands out in the whole listen, and without that amazing guitar work, if the guitar work would have been ever so slightly less present, let's say, or less important, say, in the songwriting process, I think this album would have been a total flop. So even though I do kind of like the type of thing they're trying to do here, and I do appreciate this sound, I think that it has a lot of potential, it has a lot to do with it, and if done properly and without such a fucking ridiculous amount of tracks that are totally unnecessary, I think you could really come up with a great, awesome album. But until that sound is perfected, and until they kind of know how to filter the songs from, you know, the songs that are being left up from the album and the ones that actually go in, I think that we're constantly going to be receiving this type of albums where you're just going to have a shitload of tracks that, even though they're not bad, they're kind of repetitive after a while. Every track in here can stand up for themselves and say, hey, I'm a good song. But when you put it all together, you really would be better off listening to any other, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers album that's way shorter, or that has more variety in terms of the amount of genres or the way that the genre is being performed. Definitely check out Unlimited Love. I know that album didn't do that well, if I'm not wrong. So if you listen to this album, you like what you hear, go out to Unlimited Love, because it's the same type of concept. You know, this album is basically that other album's brother. So go ahead, give it a try. My favorite tracks from this album definitely is It's River to Eddie Van Halen. Eddie, you have the track Roulette, you have the track Fake as Fuck, really funky, you know, enjoyable, fun track. One of the only tracks in here that tries to change the pace of the, you know, of the song. Worst tracks from this album are definitely Tip of My Tongue. Annoying as. No, I'm not the public for that one. And My Secret Red, which is a horrible attempt to kind of change the you know, the type of music in this album. So those two are the worst ones. And the rest of the tracks here go from good to decent, and that's pretty much it. I'm really gonna be expecting new material from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Let's see what they do with the sound. Let's see what they can achieve once they perfect it a little bit more. But for now, I think that there's still, you know, room for improvement. I'm giving this album a 5. That'll be it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that I upload. If you want me to review another album, leave it down below as well so I can check it out. What do you think about this album? Leave me your opinion down below as well. I'm pretty sure that a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers, you know, hardcore fans may be mad at me for this review, but I just didn't find anything about this album that groundbreaking as the 90s and 2000s material. And this type of comparisons are inevitable, because basically that's what, you know, it's the same band we're talking about. So if we want to talk about a good record, then we definitely have to see how the band at their best, let's say. And this album is far from their best. I think that, you know, again, I like the concept, I like the ideas that were brought up here, but I still think that there's a lot of room for improvement. I think that they need to kind of filter the type of songs that go into the album. They need to, you know, spice it up a little bit. Most of the tracks here are not that passionate. Again, if it weren't for the guitar work, this album would have been a fucking mess. But you know what, the guitar work is there. I did enjoy this album. I'm only giving it a 5 because I believe that an hour and a half is just too much for this type of music. So once again, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I can see you guys soon with a new video. But until then, bye.